Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Raybearer, chapters 33 and 34, the final chapters of the book. In these chapters, Tarisai decides that she is going to risk it all, and I really mean that. She risks it all, like first physically, and then a little bit later spiritually, and then again physically. She's risking a lot over and over again. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right, Rashawn. So, how do you feel about the way this book wrapped up? What are your overall thoughts now that we've reached the end?
I was really blown away with how, even though it ends on a clearly there's still another story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the ending was beautiful. I was really blown away by it. I actually cried in some spots.
Aww.
It was just so much more than I expected. I was concerned a little bit about how I would feel if it had a air quote happy ending.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, like, if she shows back up to the palace and everybody just loves her and forgives her, and she just shows up and says who she is, and
and she's accepted,
and Dio accepts her, and there's no conflict, because I've been trained by media to sometimes believe that if there is not enough of that specific type of conflict, and somehow it's not real, not telling a real story.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Very much.
So I can be a little cynical and underestimate how satisfying an ending can be that doesn't just do the thing that we are told has to be done for it to be a good story. You know what I mean?
So what would that thing have been in this scenario?
The thing, well, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
When you say, like, you just said how a story wouldn't be satisfying if it doesn't do the thing. What's the thing?
So the thing here in this case is she shows up back to the palace, tells everyone she's now Empress,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She has the ray, and her council, Dio, they all, like, I was expecting, or part of me was thinking, well, it has to be they deny her. She can't just come back, say, I'm this, show her mask, prove it. I expected there to be like a big cover up,
mm-hmm.
They're going to, say it's sorcery or whatever,
mm-hmm.
because that's kind of the way a lot of the stories go a lot of the time.
Yeah,
our heroine, our heroes or our heroines, reveal themselves, and then the conflict is people believing they are who they are.
Yes,
right,
very much.
But what happens here is that doesn't happen at all, and the conflict is what she ends up sacrificing. That is what is taking us to the next part of the story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The next part of the story isn't her fighting for control against Dio or trying to prove that she deserves to sit next to him and rule. It's not that at all. It's this other thing she's going to do for this. And it was almost as if I didn't want to hope that that's how the story would go, because it's just so rare.
I get that. It's interesting because I, like, in that sort of theme, That's sort of ties in with my like disdain for romantic subplots where they get milked for a lot of like cheap drama because people misunderstand each other or get in fights, and then they have to split up and finally communicate and realize that they misunderstood. And what you're describing, like with people not believing her or, you know, allowing her, it's like, what if the story was about people who are supportive and the challenge isn't the people in their lives, it's actually the circumstances instead, which I think can be a lot harder to write. It's a lot easier to just make it, you know, the people are the people surrounding your main character are the problem. And that's not like out of the question, of course, but I think people fall back on that really quickly in a way that's not super fun to read, because you want your main character to have support, especially when Tarisai has notoriously been unsupported. So
when they all come and tell her that they will lean on her and she can lean on them, that was like one of the moments where I like teared up. It just got to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very, very pleased and satisfied with the way the note it ends on. I can't wait to see what the next book is. It's gonna, I'm assuming, be about her finding her counsel. And I think you said there's just the 2 books, so
yeah,
I'm thinking that we'll also get to see if she actually goes to the underworld and how that's gonna go. And like, I didn't even think we'd ever even see that. That wasn't even on my radar. So I'm super, super stoked about that as well. So yeah, just fucking top to bottom, I loved everything about this book. I really did. I loved everything about it.
Yay. All right. Well, let's get this started from the top. So we actually get the part that I kind of low-key spoiled already at the last episode because I miscounted chapters. And my apologies on that, but also I guess it wasn't that big a deal.
It wasn't.
It's fine. But we start off with her like just coming out of Wynn's memory, and he's talking about how his sister kept getting in his way when he was trying to convince his mother to give the armies over to the lady. And he says with some, you know, self-awareness that his sister has always been the one that had the brains. And looking back, she fucking could tell what was up. And honestly, if Wynn had managed to get his mother to give the lady the army, and then things went the way she intended to go, I don't know what would have happened to him or what his family would have done, but
it would have been really, really bad.
Really bad.
Wynn really put his family in a precarious position. And I don't blame him. One, he was a literal child.
Sure.
You know?
Yes.
And, you know, followed the lady and believed in her. And I don't think that, I mean, he clearly is just feeling so betrayed, and why, you know, of course he is. But I just feel like great sympathy for him and his character, you know. And then we get to the end when Tarisai really like finally makes it back to the palace, and the sister is there, and the mother, I believe, is there as well, right?
Yes.
The queen and the sister are there, and so we get to meet them, you know. And I was like, "Whoo, these women, they about that life."
Yeah, they are. I love his sister just being like, "You're saying a whole lot of shit that sounds real familiar to me, and I don't know what you think you can offer that is going to make me believe this shit a second time, but I don't see it happening for you." So she asks about whether the others on the council that her mother established are Ahsokan, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, every single one of them." So this was her trying to like cancel out his blood from the magic.
Yeah. We had talked in the last chapters because there was some, you know, there was a moment where Tarisai was thinking that maybe like the lady wasn't doing what Uin thought she was. It wasn't a betrayal, that she had like this other plan, right? And we find out here that no, she really was trying to cancel out his blood. She had no real interest or intention of saving the Songland children from being sacrificed, because she realized that she wouldn't be able to rule.
Yes. Yep.
Without that, in that I don't know what to call it. This sort of I don't want to call it a treaty, because that the fact that they keep calling it a treaty is like I get it's a treaty between Aristar and the
demons
and the spirits, the demons, right? It's a treaty between them, but they. Throughout the whole book, we talk about Songland as though they are part of it, you know, in a way that means that they're like actively participating, and they're really not.
No.
They're just, you know,
they're just the sacrifice.
The lady realized that, again, there is no ruling without the sacrifice for the underworld, and that the minute any of the other realms find out their children are on the chopping block, it's fucking chaos. It's anarchy, you know? And that's the thing about ruling, you know, is the way that we have been shown, the way it's been, I don't know if it has to be this way, but it feels like it's always been this way, is that there always has to be a population that can be sacrificed for the greater good, you know? It's like a sort of implicit contract, you know, that we all just decide individually and systemically that there are going to be people who just don't make it, who don't get a chance.
Yeah.
And that is the cost of doing business, is what we all tell ourselves, right?
Yep.
And I mean, this is, of course, you know, this book, of course, is sort of an extreme, but it's not that extreme, you know. It really isn't. Like it's like fantasy and everything, but it's not. Like when you think about where we are right now, and I don't want to take up too much time, especially because we started late. But today was, you know, Trans Visibility Day, and I couldn't even post anything. Like I didn't even know what the fuck to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right now, what we're doing. I'm going to put like a flag up as a Facebook status. Like, what the fuck? Who am I helping? You know what I mean?
This is something that I totally, like, you and I are so similar in this way, where I want to show support for a thing in theory, but what is expected to show that kind of support feels so paltry and almost insultingly silly that I wind up not doing anything, because it is so, it isn't actually performative in spirit, but it feels performative because I know the reality, and it's just, you know, like, so I completely fucking get
so
what you mean.
This, you know, but so again, we're not like, this is fantasy and all, but it's a real thing. And it has always been a real thing, and it's true today, like it was true the day before. And I think that's another reason why at the end of this, when Tarisai decides to sacrifice herself, it was another emotional moment, because it was this feeling I was having today, struggling for a lot of different things. And granted, this is a character, and you know, she's kind of got superpowers, low key, you know. But this one young girl,
basically,
you know, this one person, and to do something that grand, you know, that big, and be willing to sacrifice herself, you know, it just, I don't know, it just really touched me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something, not to jump ahead too much, because of course we're going to actually get into the whole scene, but she is offering to do something that it absolutely would never even enter the lady's head to do. It wouldn't occur to her to put herself at risk, because that's just like, that's just not who she is. So this is the kind of thing that I think, and I'm not taking myself out of this equation either. Just to be clear, there are things that we can like look at as an option to make the world in general a better place. And the idea of it, of that sacrifice, even sometimes something a much, much, much less intense than your life, is unthinkable to a lot of people for reasons that I feel like, if you examine them, are based in a lot of like old-fashioned fundamentalist thinking. It would never even enter somebody's mind. But for me, it's like, isn't that worth more people being safe and more people being housed and more people having enough food to eat? Like, you know, it's just tough because like I have a lot of privilege in so many different ways, and yet I can be very resentful of the privileges I don't have. So I get protective and I don't want to give things up because of course I don't. Of course none of us do. But then there's the theory about how much you're actually giving up and how much is it you think you're giving something up when in fact you're just giving somebody else a chance, which isn't the same thing. Anyway, so yeah, they have this talk, and the two of them just kind of commiserate here about what it is that she can actually do. Yeah. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, she gets really excited. She tells Wynn that, you know, all is not lost. I just need to get back to the palace. I can get Dio to not do this. I just got to get there. But Wynn is like, he's fucked up, y'all. I'm just going to say it. He's in a bad way. He's in a real bad way. Yeah. And he cannot get her there. And they realize that the only way for her to get home would be this incredible 26, I think, lodestone journey, which is not only like has never been done. Like the body cannot take that kind of travel. I think that something like one guy did 15 and he was I'm
going to read this. After 4 crossings, my body would begin to disintegrate. If I was lucky, my lungs would start failing at 10. A man had once been known to survive 15, but had spent the rest of his life deformed and bedridden. But 26, I would die within minutes of reaching Dio. And that's if I made it to Oluwan.
Yep. And you feel like, all right, well, not only is a reader, but they also are just like, this is impossible. We're out of options. We're not going to get there in time. There's nothing we can do. And she has a terrible night of trying to sleep, and she can't. And she wakes up, and the little girl is there. And they have this conversation, and she tells Tarisai that, you know, the traitor prince, you know, you upset him. He was crying all night, and he never cries. And they have a conversation, and she mentions to Tarisai that there is this pathway up to sort of like a sacred place, a shrine. And she says, I go there sometimes to scream because the terrors and the memories of her experience in the underworld get so overwhelming. She has to get it out. She doesn't want to do it in front of the other children. She goes to this place to have those moments in private. And Tarisai goes up there and ends up having this, I don't know, this visit with the gods, if you believe in that sort of thing, you know? And this voice speaks to her. And she's talking to a mural. I think there's a mural of Am, like basically kind of left on the walls or something from a shaman who lived there. And she starts talking about how that it'll never be enough, that the ones that she saved won't outnumber the ones that she's harmed. And she passes out, and it looks like she's basically going to freeze to death. Like she's out in the snow, and she gets this sort of hypothermia thing that happens. And as she falls asleep, she starts hearing this voice speaking to her. And the most important thing it says, don't ask how many people you will save. Ask to what world would you save them? What world is worth surviving in? which I feel like is the fucking question.
Yeah,
It is the fucking question.
This is one of those moments, which happens in a surprising number of YA books. A question gets posed that you're like, oh, you just wrote it down and published this.
You just
That's
put
rude.
Right there in front of, like, you know, in front of my salad, my coffee, you know.
Right in front of my fucking salad.
And she wakes up from this dream, and instead of being nearly frozen to death, she is warm and dry. And she rushes back down to the little, you know, I don't know, house, wherever. Everybody is hanging out, a hut, a shack.
Hovel.
And she hops on what is the little beast that he
I'm trying to find
gallops around on?
Hyung?
I
think.
She hops on Hyung, tells it something in its ear,
Mm-hmm.
and they're off. And she is making a fucking headway for these 26 fucking lodestones.
She's gonna fucking do it.
She's just gonna fucking do it.
Which, honestly, I really was like, but why though?
Like,
I'm not gonna lie. I just was like, you're not even going to get there though. Like, why are you just throwing your life away? Was really my thought.
I couldn't believe that, like, because in my mind, I'm like, we just talked about how this is practically, like, not practically, it is impossible. You just told me that it's impossible to do this journey. But here you are about to do this impossible thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like crazy talk.
Agree.
But
which I gotta say that even though she's the main character and you know that it's unlikely she will die, I was really worried about her in a very genuine sense.
Right. Like,
you know?
You know what is funny too? The way that the author manages to do that, because there's a couple of things happening all at the same time. There's awareness that it's the main character, right? Mm-hmm. But also, as her journey goes, that shit gets really, really scary.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like
her fears appear very well founded.
So, like, part of my brain was like, well, clearly she makes it. But then my other part of my brain was like, oh, I don't know. It's not looking good. Maybe she makes it, but like, what is left of her to when she makes it? Like, what does that look like? I started like imagining all types of different scenarios where she does get there, you know, maybe, and she does survive, but I don't know, a hand and a foot didn't make it. Like, I wasn't sure exactly.
I thought you were going to say a hand and a foot was all that made it. I got that real backward.
Can you imagine?
She's just like half a torso, like, you know, for whatever reason, she's still alive, but most of her isn't there.
Most of her did not make it back.
Really starts to turn into a sort of Doctor Who scenario.
But so, and then even like watching her make this journey, because it's so cool. Like, there's a bit where she's like the very first, because they leave Songland and they have to like get back into Aristar, and so they have to like kind of cross the border back into the kingdom.
Right.
And it's the first time we see her try to use her ray. And it's real dicey, right? Because she's like barreling head first and she whips it out. She hollers and nothing fucking happens.
I love it.
And
I was like, wait, what? I got so upset. Like, what was your thought when this happened?
A bitch was real nervous. That was my thought. I was like, what? Oh no. But it's real quick though. It's a real quick recovery.
Yes.
And
she figures it out long before I
listen. That is why she is on the council and she's a Raybearer and I am just on the podcast. That is, you know, we are not the same. So she realizes that because the lady has died, she's no longer the princess. So she needs to grab the other mask and yell out a different sort of this Oberbaron. I'm not. This is like an order, but also like a name and a.
I thought that it was like the old language for emperor and empress.
Okay, is that what
But
it is?
I may be wrong about that.
And she yells that, and she also yells out her whole name, and it works, and the light happens, and all the guards are just like, what?
Yeah.
And she crosses through, and she has to repeat this process, basically, of bounding towards the next lodestone. They all seem to be guarded.
Yeah.
And this repeats. And each time she's a little less strong.
Yeah.
She can't even yell towards the end. She can barely speak. As she's traveling, she notices things like her fingers are fading away and her legs and feet are getting numb, and there's like her ribs and her chest hurt, and and it is just, and then finally she gets to where does she go? Where it says she tries to yell out, I tried to say, I'm Tarisai Cunello. See me, I'm here, but I wasn't, not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when she's back at the castle, I think. She's back at the palace at this one.
Yeah. This got me. The guards see her and they think she's an evil spirit because she looks such a fucking mess. That it's just like, well, that's obviously from the pits of hell, so stay away from it.
It's here to curse the treaty, they say.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, I'm so fucking close. Like, the Dio's just on the other side of that wall.
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to speak and she can't. She at one point she says, I'm begging for my feet to reappear. I am not a ghost. I scream without words. I am not nothing. I am not nameless. I will not fade into graceful oblivion. But she couldn't speak. She couldn't stand. She tries to summon the anger, the indignation. There's nothing. There is nothing.
I really want to talk about the wording of fading into graceful oblivion, because that got me a little bit. That it's like, not only are women supposed to not be seen, but we are supposed to, that the fact that we're not letting ourselves be seen is a mark of class.
Oh yeah, we're
on
not
our
supposed.
part.
Yeah, we're not supposed to make a scene.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to be hysterical, make a scene. You're supposed to just be very quiet and disappear and not inconvenience anybody with your hysterics or anything else. Mm-hmm.
Just well, that's what a lady does, is she has some grace and she vanishes as she should. And I just like, that hurt. Yeah,
that's such a good line. And she's, I will not fade into graceful oblivion like every other girl, every other Empress Raybearer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But she tries to stay in and she can't.
Yeah.
And she sends a thought out to Dio and Jeet and Kira and every person she feels like she's failed. I wanted to write a new story for you all, but I tried. And then this fucking, the way this is written, then the remains of Tarisai Cunello slipped from Hyung's back and the world dwindled to gray. And I was like, well, I guess I had it all wrong.
Yeah, right. In the chat, Patrick says, I thought she was going to die of lodestone travel and go to the underworld. Which, that's a really good theory, actually. That's solid. That as an idea had not occurred to me the first time I read it. So I was just having sheer panic at like her actual death. And maybe I would have been a little bit calmer if that option had entered my head. But,
I love it too, Patrick, because the next line is Tarisai thinking, I expected to wake up in the underworld. Mm-hmm. So you two were like, you were right here. You were eye to eye.
I like to think that was the author actually lampshading it and being like, yeah, you thought you knew what she was going to wake up to, huh? Nope. Guess what?
And
got
then
some surprises up my sleeve still.
This fucking Melu. Like, never fucking occurred to me that was what would be the saving grace.
Yeah,
You know,
same.
like in my mind, we were talking earlier about like she does the Lodestone travel. You know, I had even thought to myself, well, maybe Kira will be able to heal her or something.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
it never once did I think of this at all. And it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. She just wakes in a warm lake of fire, and it's Melu, and she says, "Can you visit the underworld?" Because that's where she thinks she is right now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And it says, beamed, shimmering brighter, which we have never seen or read those words.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
He was literally like fading into the ground last time she saw him.
he is just fully himself. He is not an Eru anymore. He said, "You have set us free, daughter." And she realizes the lady's emerald cuff is gone.
Yeah.
And this is so funny. It's not funny, but it's just like so on brand. After he's healing her, she's not in her raggedy clothes anymore. He has wrapped her in like the finest finery. And the first thing she really says is, "I didn't free us. The lady died." Because that's how quick she is to not take any kind of credit, seemingly, for anything that she accomplishes or that she does or anything. She's so quick to be like, "It wasn't me. It was this. It was that. It was them." So she's like, "No, I didn't free us at all." And he has to explain that the way he writes it, her ambition would have haunted us still, enslaving your mind forever. Like the idea that just that someone dies, that the hold they have on you, that the trauma they have, you know, bond that you have, or all that shit just evaporates because they die. That's not how that shit works. And I just really, really love that was included here. That no, it doesn't just end because she's dead. He says her ambition would have haunted us, but just like all of her shit would have haunted us forever, you know? And it is Tarisai finding her purpose that frees her and frees Melu from the lady.
Yeah.
It is not just because the lady is dead now. You know, there has to be more.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, agree. I don't hate all stories that end with if the person's dead, their spell is over. But this story has been so emotional and so driven by the bond that Tarisai had with her mother that was so fraught in so many like really deep, complex ways that if it had been just her mother dies and that's over, it would have really been unsatisfying. Yeah. And because of the effect that her mother has had on her life, even when Tarisai is out of her sight for years and years, but still bound.
Exactly.
It makes a lot of sense that would remain anyway.
Yep. Yep. Because it's not, it didn't have to be the lady's physical presence in Tarisai's life. That wasn't, you know what I mean? So just removing her physical being from this realm would, like, how is that really any different from her being absent all that time and still having control? You know? And he says, I love this part too, that wanting to be loved was not enough, devotion to your friends was not enough, but wanting justice to carve out a new story for this world, no matter the cost, that was enough. And I just, you know, I wish that were true. That part isn't really true.
I don't fully agree, but I think that our minds are so corrupted by capitalism that we have this like thing wrapped up with what our purpose is and thinking that it also has to be like our job or, you know what I mean? And I think that it can be completely separate and totally different and a whole other, you know, not for me. I am lucky enough for my job to also be what I want my purpose to be, which is to brighten the world and make people laugh and think. And that is what I want to do. But I don't think that you have to also have that, like, whatever your purpose is in your gut, your belly song, as your full-time job. And I think in some ways, if you do that, sometimes you can ruin it for yourself a little bit. You know, like, depending.
I think the bit where he says wanting justice to carve out a new story for this world was enough. When I say I don't think that that's enough, what I mean is just the wanting of justice isn't enough. And what makes what Tarisai ends up doing so remarkable is that it's not just that she wants this, but it's the lengths she's willing to go to achieve it, which we see a little bit later.
Yeah.
So
and that's
now
the part that makes me self-conscious, because I'm like, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I would not have taken that lodestone journey. Couldn't have been me. So that's my bad. I guess I didn't have faith or whatever, but you know, it seemed like a real death sentence. So I don't know. Yeah, there's time for heroics, and then there's time to be like, well, that's just literally not going to work. And that's what I thought we had agreed on. So whatever. Some of us aren't heroes. That's okay.
We can't all be heroes. Somebody's gotta be like in a kitchen making soup. Somebody's gotta be making sure the linen is washed, you know, and people have comfy pillows and, you know, warm toasty clothes and good food to eat. And, you know, it's all important parts.
I mean, again, that can be heroic, but like, what's the cost I'm being asked to pay? Are you like, well, everybody can have comfy, warm clothes and food forever if you just throw yourself off this like 65-foot drop and survive? Because I'm not doing that either.
No.
What is the sacrifice?
No. Some of us, our role is to just be the ones making sure that there's tasty soup and comfy clothes. You know, not everybody's going to be doing a lodestone travel, and that's fine.
We aren't all asked to sacrifice. Oh, thank God.
We're not.
I'm really not interested.
We're not all asked to sacrifice the same things.
Fair. Okay.
So, she goes back to after she's like made whole again by Melo. She is back on her mission to get back to the Imperial Hall.
I really thought you were going to say back on her bullshit.
I should have, but that felt disrespectful.
Oh, Tarisai, back on her bullshit. In a good way.
And in a good way. I love when she shows up and they see her face and everybody, all the guards are just like, you were kidnapped by that wicked Songlander. We've been searching for you, because now, one, I had low-key forgot exactly how quick everything happened when they were on the roof, right?
Yep.
Everything was so fast between Thaddeus pushing the Emperor over and Bali being dropped, the lady being poisoned, you know, wind swooping Tarisai and flying away. It all happened so fucking fast.
Yes.
So they have all, you know, they had no idea who Win is.
Yeah, the optics
right?
on what happened weren't awesome.
Right? So I didn't forget what happened on the roof, but I forgot that not everybody was like hip to everybody that was happening. So they didn't know who Win was. They just see this guy showed up and
stabs the lady, scoops her up and skedaddles.
Flies away. So yeah, people are going to have questions.
I feel like Wooin would really take exception to me using skedaddle about him.
It is not dignified enough.
Not at all. He really feels like a guy who takes himself seriously, and like for the most part, he has earned that.
True.
But there is a point where you're like, all right, buddy, look, lighten up a little bit.
I feel like that little girl that takes care of the kids at the hut.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she probably has told him more than once to fucking like calm down, especially because she also survived the underworld.
Yeah.
So she's probably some days like, dude.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I wouldn't be surprised if she got older and was just like, listen, everybody tried to tell you not to listen to that bitch. All this heartbreak could have been avoided if any woman in your life was worth listening to, according to you. But here we are. Got involved with a fuck girl.
Happens to the best of them.
It does.
So now Tarisai is trying to get to Dio.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, he's busy right now. Which I thought was really weird. You know, not that he's busy, but, you know, that she's an anointed honor still in good standing as far as they know. And they're telling her, no, you can't because the treaty's underway. You have to wait till it's over.
I think it's just like the ritual never involves the honors. So it's just her breaking protocol. They're very concerned with protocol.
I mean, the rest of the honors are standing around, though, sort of as witnesses to the ritual.
Are they? They're in the room?
Before a seat of courtiers that Dio stood in his father's clothes on the dais.
Yeah, the 12 rulers stood gravely behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. While my crowned council siblings watched from the sidelines. So maybe it was that she was just interrupting and making them open the doors in the middle of everything, and they were like, it's kind of rude. That's
how it is in church sometimes. Like, I know it's been a long time since you've been to church.
Wow.
No, it's just been a long time since I've been to church, too. But like, if you, like, I don't know about everybody's church, but some churches, if you show up while they're in prayer, you can't come in until they're done. You'll have to wait in like the vestibule until the prayer's over, and then they open the doors and let you in.
Yeah.
So maybe it's kind of like that. Like they're just like, you know, they're already in the middle of it, and they're just like, you have to wait.
And look, I want to go on the record, even though I am somebody who is chronically late. I think that's fair to make people wait until like a solemn, quiet moment is over before you can walk in onto the thing. Yeah. I don't mind that. Yeah, I would honestly, as somebody who is chronically late, I would rather not have it highlighted that I was super late by walking into a room in dead silence with the doors creaking and my shoes squeaking and everyone turning to look at me. So, I don't know. Maybe I have like a vested interest in this, but sometimes rules are in place for reasons that aren't totally selfless. What can I say?
Patrick says, like in theater plays when they only allow people in during intermission.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right. However, that is just not going to do. So, no. So she bursts through the doors anyway and interrupts the ritual. And the heat of 1,000 gazes bored into me. Shocked murmurs hissed like a wind in a storm. It's like your discomfort with interrupting prayer.
I'm just saying. I get what she's talking about.
So she says, stop, don't do this. And
the Mbiku are the first to speak to her, which I don't know why, but for some reason that bothers the hell out of me.
I really was upset too. I thought somebody else would say anything. And when it said, hello, it's slimy voices raised the hair on my neck. Hello, killer girl. Ugh. And she describes them again, which we get a description of them earlier in the book, and I had forgotten just how unsettling it was.
Yeah. I forgot that their jaws unhinge, and that like anytime that you make a creature's mouth in particular really weird, I always get the icky crawlies.
Listen, everything about this is icky. Also, they speak in unison.
Oh my god, I forgot that.
That is never, in my opinion, a good sign. It's just never is. Maybe there's one or two instances in pop culture, but I can't think of anything. a group of people are talking to me in one voice, that's bad because it's basically just one brain.
Yeah.
And you can't fucking deal with like a multitude that's all operating from one brain. That's just never going anywhere good.
Yeah. Agreed.
They have eyes that glow like rats. The unhinged jaw thing that you talked about, the way they stand unnaturally still, their whole steez is no bueno. It's just no good. And they say to her, again, you interfere with our covenant? Oh, I really do not care.
They are just so like,
about this.
Why are you fucking around all the time? You're ruining your day, our day, everybody else's day. Do you want another fucking massacre like what we had last time? And if you do, I mean, I'm not mad about it because we'll just eat y'all. So fine.
Right.
But it does seem counterintuitive.
And then she gets into like an argument with them, which I feel like I have like mixed feelings about.
I'm always for arguments.
Like
so
I'm for the argument and the arguing, you know, but also I feel like these are demon spirits and maybe arguing is not like the best way to go.
Or maybe, hear me out, arguing with demons is the best way to handle them because they love like fine print.
Well, these particular ones do seem to be very like, you know, I don't want to insult lawyers, but very particular. And so she yells at them about how being there the one. Oh my God! Speaking of particulars, did you see that fucking news about Disney?
No.
And what they pulled?
No. What did they do this time?
No. Well, it's Disney, so it sucks, but it's also it really screws DeSantis, so it's awesome. So you know, so you know how
Tell me more.
You know how DeSantis has been like feuding with Disney about control in Florida because Disney got all, you know, pushed back on the Don't Say Gay bill and all that stuff, right?
Right.
So DeSantis had installed this new board that was going to replace what was called Reedy Creek or whatever, which was the current body that basically sort of ruled over like how Disney can move in Florida, like what land they can buy, you know, how they do this, how they do that. And DeSantis wanted, so like Disney has a sort of like own little self-governing thing happening down there. And DeSantis wanted to kind of bring them more under his control and control the state of Florida. So long story short, DeSantis enacted this new board to replace the one that's been in existence for like 50 years. He like handpicked all the people that were going to be on the board, and that was going to be his way of bringing Disney to heel.
Okay.
Right? So DeSantis's board was going to go live like March 1st or some bullshit. And one of the last official acts of the board that's being replaced, they signed a contract with Disney. And in one of the clauses was like, and this agreement will be valid in perpetuity until 21 years after the date of death of the last living descendant of King Charles III of England.
What?
It's this weird legal thing called a royal lives clause. And basically it's just like our contract is, because you can't just have contracts in perpetuity, you know, forever and ever and ever and ever. So like there's this weird thing where it's 21 years after the death of the last living grandchild of King Charles right now. So it would be like Kate and William or Harry and Meghan's kids.
Right.
This contract will be valid until 21 years after the last living one of those grandkids dies.
Why would you word it like that instead of just saying
because the
2097?
I don't. Well, the clause, the royal lives clause, is an existing thing. So that verbiage has already exists in like contract
but
law, or whatever.
that's a weird fucking thing to continue doing.
But also, like,
we're Americans, first of all. So right there, I'm already kind of like, what the fuck?
But it's also like, well, I mean, Queen Elizabeth was like 99 years old, right?
Sure.
Her husband was like 99 years old. Charles is going to live to be 99. And then, like, all the grandkids are going to live to be fucking 100.
I want to write a story where somebody tries to assassinate all the royal family members exclusively to null this contract. That's their whole goal. There's nothing about the royal family. There's nothing connected to England. It's solely a Disney-motivated assassination series of assassination attempts. And you know what? I shouldn't even be saying this out loud because it's going to be a bestseller, and I shouldn't spoil the story for everybody. So forgive me, everyone. I shouldn't have said anything.
But yeah. So I had just read that news today, and then reading later on when she's arguing with them about like what she's going to do, and that popped in my head, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Weird. The law is weird and strange and goofy as hell sometimes, man. Anyway,
Disney has like fucking what are these fucking demons called again?
A Biku?
The Biku? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Disney has a Biku lawyer.
That makes sense to me. The Abiku are the ones who give them all their ideas for their movies. They're like, well, you know what happened one time.
You know, it's a really sad day too, and I'm like rooting for Disney.
Honestly. That was my first thought, was when you were like, oh, did you hear about him and Disney? And I was like, oh, what did they do? Because I'm just assuming it's them.
Exactly. Like DeSantis has put me in a really, really uncomfortable position.
Man. Well.
Like, how awful do you have to be rooting for Disney?
So she tells Dio that she can't explain the whole thing, but trust her, the fucking treaty is a screwed up conundrum, and that he needs to trust her on this, and he really does immediately. Dio recoiled from the shield, dropping the knife on the floor.
Yeah. And
I really love him for that. I love him so much for just immediately believing her.
Again, this is one of those things where a lot of the times the conflict becomes about spending all this time trying to convince everybody that you're telling, you know what I mean? Like, the minute she says, I don't have time to explain now, you have to trust me, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's not what happens. He fucking just trusts her.
Yep.
And you know what? He should trust her.
Yep.
Like, it makes sense that he does. So, and then we get fucking, I knew it. Oh. And it's the queen there. She's there. And she has been waiting for this fucking confirmation. They have known that this was bullshit for generations and generations. They knew it. They've been getting gaslit, you know, and here it is. Finally, not only everything that they secretly believed and knew was true, they get confirmation of, but it happens in a room full of witnesses.
Yes.
It happens where everybody can see in the open, you know, which I love, because a lot of times these types of moments happen but then there's nobody else around that heard it.
Sure.
Yeah. You know?
Yep. Oh, so convenient. Now we can just deny it. And nothing really changes for another 7 books.
Right. Exactly. So I love it too, that it's right here in the open. And wrinkles framed her eyes like dragonfly wings. I really like that.
Same.
And she says, I knew the storyteller could not have cursed her so. And I love that too, because this idea that a people have been told that they have been cursed by their God, you know, and left to suffer in this way, on top of the actual horror of stealing their children for sacrifices, you know, and being told that they deserve it because they've been abandoned by their God. They've been cursed. Like, that is a real fucking shitty thing to do, you know? Yeah. And it reminded me a little bit, I don't know the Bible, like, I get the names and people wrong and everything, but there's a thing that has to do with why Black people were cursed, and it has something to do with we're the children of so and so.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I forget which one it's supposed to be, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You've heard it.
Yeah. Is it not the children of Cain?
Maybe. I really can't remember who we're supposed to, why we deserve our treatment. But
right.
There's a whole thing out there in the universe that floats around for why Black people have endured what we have endured. It is because, we have been cursed, and it is our penance or punishment or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And
it's so wild to me that people can believe in stories like that, but then be like, well, I'm not responsible for white privilege because I wasn't alive for slavery. And it's like, all right, but this like generational curse that is laid upon an entire race of people is completely all right. Yeah, no, that makes more sense.
Sure. Yeah. That all checks out. You're absolutely, and I love that there's I think the description of the way she's speaking, it says the corners of her mouth were fixed with vast cumulative grief. Yeah. And then the daughter is like, of course it was a fucking lie.
I really do enjoy her.
I did too. I'm kind of like sort of salty that there wasn't more of her in the book because she seems fantastic. And Tarisai interrupts and sort of like it just kind of intervenes. Really, is a better word because she's like, no, Dio didn't know.
Yeah,
like he had no idea. No one did. No one knew. No one knew except Inoba from ages ago. Right? This is not common knowledge that it was bullshit, that it was a lie. It's a deal that Inoba did, and people have just been perpetuating it.
Which, like, that is true, and okay, fair, but there is a part of me that is like, your mom knew and was just going to keep that shit to herself, and other people might have been able to find out, but because all of the women were prevented from ever sharing the ray or being involved in everything, all kinds of things like facts have been lost. It's just like, it's such a cumulative effect. It's really, yeah. So she's not wrong, but it's just like, there's so much to the story.
Yeah. There's I like too the idea like that you mentioned that like, because they've only been getting half of the what was the description? It was like Inoba and then his sister. One was like, the sister was like the wisdom and he was like the warrior or whatever, something
like that,
right?
Yeah.
So this empire from its very beginning has only been half of what it's meant to be. And so much has been lost, and I don't know if it's in the book or if I just made it up, but I feel like Inoba's sister would not have ever sanctioned this deal to sacrifice Songland, right? I might just be like, again, I can't remember if that's said explicitly that she wasn't, she was against it, or if I'm just,
I don't think it was ever explicit, credit. But based on the way that she seemed to fight for common people a lot more, like she's the one who built the library and stuff and like made sure that everybody had access. I think that she didn't know, and she wouldn't have allowed it if she knew.
Right. And I suspect, and I don't know if it's true, but I think that if given the opportunity, they could have hurt the Inoba sister, whose name I can't remember. Is it the one with the W? Oh, is it that it? Okay.
Is it Ayatoro? I think it is, yeah.
I don't know. Would have been able to maybe come up with an alternative plan that did not involve sacrificing children.
Agree.
Yeah. But someone's ambition and thirst for power just sort of snuffed that out, didn't it?
It's remarkable how often A desire for power and a complete lack of imagination go together.
Girl, listen. Listen.
One-track minds, they don't bother trying to find a creative solution. They're just like, well, what's the most expedient way for me to get what I'm looking for?
It is stunning to me how little people in positions of power, how little they think about practically anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ability to be the one who says yay or nay to a thing is all they think about.
Yeah.
It is, and I mean this on like some small scale shit too, y'all. Not even like big ticket items like the world and government and social issues. I'm just talking about day to day shit. Like, like there are
the petty stuff.
That like there are people in my work who green light things that they don't have any basic understanding of. Just don't know anything about the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And will just say, yeah, let's do that. And then when it doesn't work,
yeah,
you know, everybody is just like, oh,
Pikachu face.
Yeah, surprise. Exactly. It is, that's all I'm going to say about it. It is just the short-sightedness or the tunnel vision as you described it. It is really, really astonishing how you just don't have to think about how anything else is impacted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nothing else. You just straight ahead. So, I love to the mother is like, because Tarisai says something like, Uwen can vouch for me.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you know where my son is? And she says, is he safe? Is he alive? Which is interesting because we had heard as a child how when Uwen returns from the underworld, his mother basically didn't want anything to do with him because he was dead. She was so wrapped in her grief that she couldn't adjust to the fact that he had come back.
Yeah.
So having her say, is he safe? Is he alive? I don't know. That was also really...
It was sort of mentioned at the tail end of his story, and it is easy to miss, that once he ran away, his mother sent people to look for him because it was like when he decided to bail, she suddenly realized that she did care, but it was like, yeah. So it was basically, you'd done your damage already, lady, and this kid doesn't want to play your game anymore.
Oh, yeah, I missed that. Oh, that makes us even sadder, because now I know that she's been like looking for him and wondering about him for like much longer than I even realized. So, the sister is not impressed.
Not even a little bit.
That Uwen can vouch. His word means nothing. His judgment is garbage.
I really like, based on the way he was talking about himself, he wouldn't even be mad at her. He would just be like, oh, no, fair.
Listen, I feel like, and you know what's so funny about this too is my assumption is at this moment when Minya says that, she is not aware of the betrayal of the lady, right?
Oh, true.
So
I'm thinking that she knows, but she doesn't. You're right.
This is just doing some old shit. Like, she doesn't even know yet that how vindicated she has been, right?
So that's funny.
So yeah, when she gets news of
she doesn't
that,
need verification. She knows what she knows.
Yep.
Yeah.
When she finds out what really happened, she's going to be insufferable.
Good for her. Good for her.
So, oh my God, what is this? What is this?
I don't know. What is this?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got confused for a second. Minya is just really, really upset, and she's just like kind of going off at Tarisai about why should we believe you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you stolen our children? And then she says Songland withdraws itself from the Redemptor Treaty, and that is really what kicks everything into the next level.
Yeah. This is when the Abiku are like, ooh, really? Because we could do that too, if that's the way that you want to play this.
If then it is war you want. Very well, we accept, they say. All in unison. Again, super creepy. This is when the unhinged jaw shows up. Don't like it.
Nah. Never a fan.
And so Dio yells, absolutely not. No more war. We'll just do a new treaty. And he's like, well, just when to protect Songland, because he's just a cinnamon roll.
Mm-hmm. He's not really thinking this through quite yet, but he's just trying to keep everybody from...
Listen, everybody calm down.
It's very tense.
Everybody just take a breath.
We got some demons that are
take a minute.
Really foaming at the mouth for some action here. I'm not mad at him for saying whatever.
Right? He's just like, you guys are going to chill. No more attacks. Everybody just chill. Songland, you also chill. Everybody.
There's a part in an old I Love Lucy episode where this guy is trying to diffuse a situation. They're visiting a cousin in Tennessee, cousin Ed, and he's talking to the sheriff who's real mad about something, and Ed gets him to stop and wait, and he says, now you simmer there a minute. And he backs away and then starts talking to them and trying to negotiate things. And that's what I think about in these scenarios all the time, is I just think, now you simmer there now.
That is exactly the energy. He is just trying to have everybody simmer. Everybody. He's just, everybody, please. Right? And then he says out loud, Dio, the next generations of Redemptors will be born in Aristar. And then Tarisai, meanwhile, was just like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And everybody just fucking goes nuts.
Yeah.
Like that, all the people, all the Aristar people are just like, they're not, no, we're not doing that either.
It sucks so much because, of course, they don't want to fucking sacrifice their kids, but it's just so gross how quick they are to allow another country to bear the entire burden. And even when it's proven that shit was unfounded, it's out of the question that they make up for it at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
There were protests all across the country today, but there was somewhere in Tennessee, they went to the Capitol and to protest some of the anti-trans and anti-gay legislation. It's on the books, and one of their representatives was speaking, and she was in her speech. She said something she was saying about all the hate, and how you first you hated black people and you hated Jews, and now you're hating everybody. And how all the hate you put out in the world you direct to everybody except your own children, but to everybody else's children. You hate everybody else's children but your own, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, yeah.
Or they do the thing where it's I'll direct it at my own children and be a horrific parent, or I'll suddenly realize that the issue I thought was an issue isn't really such an issue when it's my child that's experiencing the thing. Because now I suddenly developed empathy when it's happening to me, which is actually not what
not empathy
is, but
exactly. Yep. But so Dio is just it's only fair, but the crowd is not trying to hear that.
Mm-mm.
And then
reparations.
Listen. And then the whole room just descends again into chaos. People are screaming, the guard is trying to make sure everybody is safe. And then Tarisai just yells, and her voice carries.
Yeah.
And shit shuts everybody up. She yells, I don't even want to say yell, because that just, she announced.
Yes, good word.
No more children will be sent to the underworld. Period. That was a statement.
End of sentence.
And everybody shuts the fuck up. And then she gets up there, and this is when she starts to make her deal.
Mm-hmm.
And basically she tells the Ebiku that instead of the children, she offers up herself. I offer up a soul of an empress.
You guys have been dining on hot dogs and burgers. And I have some filet and some foie gras.
Some filet mignon.
That really hurt so deep in me. Oh. Okay. Yeah.
I thought you would appreciate that.
Nah.
In a way, mispronouncing words.
That's true. That's true. It's so wild how that can be like the thing that tickles my funny bone, and yet. Yet. But
yeah, so she just offers herself up on a platter.
Yeah.
And then in a twist of the century, they were unimpressed.
Right? I really expected a different reaction. Same. And they just kind of look at her, do that like up and down, like.
They really did.
I mean, you're really overestimating yourself. Yeah, no offense to me, but like that outfit.
I don't know if you heard, but we were getting like dozens of children on the regular. And you want us to just give that up forever and ever for that?
Filet mignon, it may be, but it's 1 tablespoon unseasoned. So, nah.
Cooked well done and served with ketchup.
Oh, this gets worse and worse.
But I love this moment before the Ikibu are unimpressed. Abiku, thank you. Someone in the crowd is just like, there hasn't even been an empress.
Right. And we're still dealing with that part of things.
Right. And so this is when she gets to announce really, who she is.
Yes.
And what she is. And she gets to tell everybody, who she is, that I am the niece of the late emperor, and that the priest can, I think she says they can confirm by my blood, and they can examine confirm that the ray flows through my blood or something like that, which I'm not really sure how that works. But and then she turns and addresses the spirits directly and says, "You know what I am. Do you accept?" And this is when they're just like, you're going to have to bring more to the table than what you're currently offering. And they say, until your blood runs with the power of all 12 arid realms, you would be a paltry prize for the underworld, which is
not paltry.
Really,
honestly,
really harsh. I mean, that's hard to come back from that.
This feels like a mean tweet or something.
That's the sort of thing you think about at 3:00 in the morning. It's this kind of shit that runs in your head.
I got called paltry by a goddamn demon.
Patrick is in the chat saying cough, Narcissa Malfoy cough. I don't know what
that was in reference to. I'm sorry I missed that.
But it made me
But we're talking about demons, so I'm not mad at it.
So this is when they want her to have a full council. They want her in her full power before she comes to see them. Otherwise, she's not worth their fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a negotiation for how much time she has to accomplish this.
Mm-hmm.
She asked for 10. They counter with 1.
I think she asked for 5.
No, she says, give me 10 years. They scoffed.
Does she? Damn. That's a long time.
They scoff, chuckling 1. She counters, okay, 5. They go 2, our final offer. And that's how they get to 2 years.
She started with 10. That is a strong negotiator there. See, this is why I don't do that shit. I'm not good at it.
Neither am I, it turns out. So, she agrees to the 2 years. And then she goes and she spills her blood into the little ritual chalice thing or shield or whatever, wherever they dip in the blood. And
it's
then
the shield.
Is it the shield?
Mm-hmm.
And then she gets the the symbols.
Yeah, all the tattoos.
Yeah.
This is something that if they do go through with making this on Netflix, and there's a sort of easy to replicate design, I could see becoming a pretty popular tattoo. If they do something like this, like the that seems to be like a sort of popular thing with fandoms. If there's like a tattoo that's important within the story, people getting it, and I wouldn't mind seeing the way that they decided to interpret how this looks, because it's supposed to be like a map, of the underworld, so that you like know how to sacrifice yourself, basically. And I think that has the potential to look like really, really cool.
Yeah. I was just trying to picture what I think it would look like. That would probably make a really dope tattoo.
Yeah.
Going all the way up your arm or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. You said if they do eventually make it, is it just rumors?
No, it's been optioned, but you know how Netflix has been.
No.
They're just not
lately.
Exactly. They've just been starting shit and then stopping it, or they'll film the whole fucking thing and then not release it. That's what HBO did, I guess, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to like be positive, but also not get my hopes up, because who knows?
Cautiously optimistic, I think is what they call that.
Yeah, I guess.
So then they disappear.
Mm-hmm.
The Bhikkhu they tittered. I hate that word. They tittered and then they disappeared.
I love that my response to you saying you hate the word titter was to titter. Oh, my bad.
It has tittingly energy to me.
That didn't occur to me. She breasted boobily down the stairs. I saw some tweet the other day, I don't remember who did it, and they were like, I owe male authors an apology because I just walked down my stairs with no bra on, and I did breast boobily down.
I saw that. That was really good. Sometimes you do just be boobily breasted around, though. Sometimes
my God.
These things just, them things be thinging. I don't know what else to tell you.
Oh, man. I feel like we are cracking up at shit that is not even that funny tonight. I think we're punchy. I think that's what's happening.
We are very tired. So, now that the, sort of tense moment is gone,
mm-hmm.
It is just like everybody looking at her, like, what have you done?
Yeah.
And Dio looks at her and says, you're breaking your promise again. You're leaving. Which is such an unexpected response. Like, of all the things that he could say in this moment, he's just sad that she's going to be gone. And that is...
There's so much surprising about Dio, even the moment when it's supposed to be her sentencing her mother to death and she doesn't do it. And, that sentencing would have freed her from her obligation so that she could be part of his council again and be safe around him. And so it was partially for him that she agreed to do it. And then she doesn't. She goes ahead and changes to a totally different ruling, and she looks over and she expects Dio to be angry when she glances over, and instead he just looks concerned for her because he recognizes the gravity of what it is that she just did. And I just love him so much. Like, every time that he has the chance to be like sulky or pissy or jealous or whatever, he just isn't. Yeah. And what a good boy.
Yeah, he really is. And when you think about what the kind of man his father seemed to be,
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very surprising. But then again, you know what? I think later on in the next chapter is when she sees her mom sort of like, you know, her shade.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the lady makes a remark, something about like how the fruits sometimes does fall, you know, farther from the tree or whatever.
Yeah.
And you think about, like, I guess Dio didn't really grow up underneath his father in a
Yeah, he
way,
was
you
sort
know?
of like separated from him, which I hear is like kind of a common thing with royalty, like that you would be like pulled and raised by tutors and nurses and everything, and like
Mm,
sometimes contact with a parent wasn't such a thing.
yeah, so I guess it is not terribly surprising that he was able to grow into whoever he was going to be
Yeah.
without necessarily that sort of toxic influence from his father.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, he just seems to be just a remarkable person and very like gentle
Yeah.
and very sensitive. And so yeah, he's just sad that she's leaving him again, and she says that she's sorry, and he says don't be. And then he like takes her hand or something and says long live the heir, and like hail your empress redemptor, like to like
Mm-hmm.
come on, like you really, you can't ask for more than
Yeah.
what he has given her in this moment, you know. And it again is so fast, he doesn't have to think about it
No.
at all, you know.
It really, like, he has said from the beginning, it's supposed to be you and me. Like, even when he didn't know she had the ray, he was like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't explain it, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that we're like part of the package. So it just feels like
Yeah.
she comes in with this and he's like, okay, so yeah. He's having the same reaction that like
Yep.
G
Yep.
did, you know, just, oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. No, this all makes sense now.
And also, like, how great is it that they recognized so early, despite everyone else assuming that they would be like romantically involved because they were so close? They
Yeah.
recognized that what they felt for each other wasn't necessarily romantic, but it was strong and it was deep. And
Mm-hmm.
how wonderful that we skirted that possible, you know,
Yep.
because the reveal is that they're cousins,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and so like that would have been really awkward and
Yeah, we don't
so
need a
nice.
Star Wars thing happening here.
I saw a fucking, I hope it was fake, but it was a screenshot of I think it was Disney Plus, talking about relationships they ship forever and ever and ever.
Okay.
And it was like for, you know, and like just like random Disney movies that have been out over the years, you know.
I'm worried now.
And then in a corner, it was Luke and Leia.
Yeah, I just don't.
And the tweet was, and then like somebody retweeted it like, is Disney trolling us or are they just not paying attention to what they're doing?
Oh man, this is such a tricky thing these days because I firmly believe that there are outlets that purposely fuck up.
Oh yeah, because that'll
You
drive
know?
engagement. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's the sort of thing where I'm just like, no, somebody just like, you know, didn't know what they were talking about. And then I'm like, maybe they didn't, but they knew they didn't. And they were just like, I know what I'm going to do to
Yeah.
get a bunch of fucking.
That's going to get a million retweets and quotes and whatever else you call things that happen on Twitter.
Yep.
You know, way more than just, you know, these are 10 couples we ship forever and they're all like the same fucking 10 couples that are on every list everywhere, you know?
Who's a couple that you ship forever?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking me? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. I don't know how to answer questions like that. I'm just not very good at those kind of questions.
Wow. You are full of surprises. I'll give you that. Yeah, I don't know what I thought I was going to get, but I thought it was going to be something else. But I'm not mad at that answer. That's pretty good.
It's been a long week. It's been a very long week. I'm very, very tired.
Rashawn's like, I ship me and my bed. OTP.
What does OTP stand for? I used to know,
One
but then I
true
forgot.
pairing.
Gotcha. I had to Google that like 12 years ago because I kept seeing it everywhere on the internet. And then, because I didn't know what ship meant. I remember Googling ship because I kept seeing it on Tumblr and I didn't know what it meant. And I had to Google to find out what these kids were talking about because I didn't have friends to ask. I was like, what is it? I ship so-and-so. And I was like, I don't understand what this means.
I love all of this, that you saw it on Tumblr, which is, of course, where you saw it. And I didn't have any friends to ask, which, nowadays you have people to go to with that. But
exactly. At the time, I had nobody in my life that would have any idea what any of those things meant. So I was just like, all right.
Picturing you asking your hardcore friends, do you know what shipping means?
It was a dark time, y'all. I was just out here being a nerd alone. Just me and the internet. Just trying to find a way. All right. So chapter 34 with like 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, so there's this whole thing where she tells everybody exactly what happened, how it all went. She's like, I'm tempted to like sugarcoat some of this. I love this. But I'm not gonna do it.
I resisted the softening of the story, trying to drape it in excuses. Nope. Just letting the facts stand naked.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was silent for a full minute, which had to be the longest minute of everybody's life. And then they all came forward and touched her brow, mimicking the gestures that she had used every night in the children's palace. And this is when they all came and said, I lean on you, Empress. You may lean on me. And then Rashong cried quietly into her book.
It's so good. It's so good.
It really is.
And she has to ask Kira to be basically an ambassador to Songland. And I love the implication of just like, you're sort of have an in. That's all I'm saying, potentially.
It'd be nice to have somebody there who's read a lot about the place.
Mm-hmm. For instance. But she is like asking her to do this and saying, please say no and stay in her head, which that is a fucking real thing. Knowing that I need you to be or do something, but also hoping that like there's a way around it and I can just say, oh, well, they couldn't or they wouldn't do it. They said no. And now I don't have to deal with it anymore.
Exactly. What she said, what she thinks is, don't leave me now, stay, be Kira, the anchor in my storm of curses and secrets. And there's an acknowledgement at the end of the book, and Jordan thanks a friend of hers and calls the person she thanks my real life Kira, the anchor in my storm of curses and secrets. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Isn't that sweet? So yeah, everybody comes and they basically just say, we got you.
Mm-hmm.
And I desperately wanted her to be able to just be like, well, this is my counsel too.
Right? Like, wouldn't that be nice if she could just be like, all right, well, is everybody on board? Can we just get this done?
Just get it done. But I guess it just doesn't work that way. And I think that actually came up and they said to her pretty clearly, no, you got to go get your own.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been nice if this would have been a loophole.
Agree.
And then finally she sees Jeet, and they haven't had any time alone yet. It's been a very busy day. And they finally have a moment. And Kira is like, all right, everybody, let's go somewhere else.
She's a real one.
She really is. She really, really is. And they all leave so that Jeet and Tara can have a moment alone. And it's just all the feels.
Mm-hmm.
She says, when Wu-En flew me away, I was afraid you would come after me. I'm glad you didn't. And he said, bitch, I sent everybody out there. What are you talking about?
I really did enjoy that. Him just being like, you thought I'd... Oh, okay. No. Just because we didn't find you didn't mean that we were
Right?
doing way too much.
I can't believe she thought for a second that he didn't. Like, I was like, girl, come on. Come on now. You know better than that.
You just happen to be in a place where a literal blizzard turns up if anybody tries to get through, so... But yeah, they wound up doing it.
Finally.
Yay!
Yeah. And it is he puts the little anklet back on her, and I just love that this is just, he had it in his pocket.
Mm-hmm. He's just waiting for his moment.
Just waiting. And yeah, they finally have their night together, and there's a moment when she says something like she woke up in the middle of the night and the ray had synced all of their breathing together. And the relief hit her so hard, she just buries her face in Jeet's shoulder and sobs, like with happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the feeling that she belonged here, that this was her family, that she was not anyone's tool anymore. She wasn't an imposter. This is where she is meant to be, and these are the people she is meant to be with. Mm-hmm. And it just, and she says, I was Tarisai Kunleo, and this was my family. And it just was, you guys.
Yeah. It's really beautifully done. And I just love that, again, the story does not revolve around misunderstandings or people not believing. It's all about the circumstances of systemic problems that you have to like work through and overcome, but you have supportive people around you trying to help and understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then she gets up for a little snacky snack because she realizes she hasn't had anything to eat.
After having her first snacky snack, am I right? Cheat. Just saying, just in case anybody wasn't clear on what I meant.
Unless there was any ambiguity.
Yeah, I don't like to be subtle. You guys know that. So
so she goes to get something to eat, and she bumps into a guard, and I thought it was going to be the captain that she helped rescue.
Right? Yeah, same.
That's not what happens.
No, it's not.
It's a guard, and she realizes, for just a flash, she realizes it's not who it. She realizes who it is.
Yeah,
we don't as a reader just yet. And then she goes off with the guard, and then we realize that it's Kathleen in disguise. Mm-hmm. And Kathleen is here, and she's still her really prickly self.
Very prickly, yes. Her personality is so strange.
I don't know what to make of her. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much she understands about what the lady was doing. I don't know where she is. Like, with what happens with Uin, I don't know what to do with Kathleen really, and they really haven't given us much. Quite frankly, this book hasn't given us much information of what to make of her. But she shows up here, and she is mad. She is furious, basically, because Kathleen wants an opportunity to say goodbye to the lady. Mm-hmm. And the lady won't come. They've been summoning her, and she won't come. She wants Tarisai.
Yeah. She's like, she can only do one visit after she dies, and so she's not going to waste it on the likes of us. It's obvious that you have to do it. And, like, Tarisai doesn't want to do it.
Nope.
But the idea that her mother is, like, resisting all of their attempts seems to change things for her.
Yep. She says no. Like, when she asks to do it, she says no. And then Kathleen is just like, oh, she was your mother, and she's dead, and they murdered her. Don't you even care? And, which is really gross and manipulative. And it's another, like, check mark of why I don't particularly care for Kathleen, the little bit that I've seen of her. But I also feel like there's probably a huge backstory there. Who knows what she was told, whether she was lied to in the same way or a different and
Right.
exciting way, But eventually, Tara agrees, and they do the little ritual, which is just sort of like burning these journal pages and completing the summoning ritual. And then the lady comes, and she seems to be sort of corporeal, because Kathleen gives her a giant hug.
Yeah, like when Mbali summoned the spirit of that girl, she was able to hug her.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So she whispers something in Kathleen's ear. The lady does. Kathleen leaves the room. And then it is just Tara and her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys...
It's complicated.
It's soup's complicated.
She says something about wanting to see her, and Tara's like, why? So that I can fulfill my mission, so that you can like continue with your... And she seems really hurt by that, but I'm also just not feeling bad for her at all, because look, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you decided in death to even continue to pursue this point,
Yeah, the lady, even in death, is just like, she tells Tara what happened after, she died, or like, because, she got, whisked off with wind. So the lady is telling her that, yeah, you know what? Your friends tried to save me.
Yeah, she's very surprised.
Yeah, she's like, the one girl sang to slow my heart down. Dio ordered the healers to give me an antidote.
Mm-hmm.
It was too late, but he tried. And I didn't anticipate that he would try to save me after I tried to kill him, after all.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it simply because he knew that you would mourn me. And this is when she says that, her brother was not so noble, but sometimes I've learned the fruit is unlike the tree. And Tarisai realizes that this is the closest her mother would ever come to apologizing for hurting Dio. And
I guess.
She asks her mom, are you in pain? And are the stories about the underworld true? And she says, for the first time in my life, my mother looked afraid.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Yep. She says, to reach my eternal rest, I have to join the parade of souls, and every step I take, I will feel any pain that I caused out of malice or neglect while I live.
Can we skip that part? I'd rather not.
That is truly a hell of your own making, though, isn't it? And she tells Tara, you know what, but I wanted to wait before I go. I needed to see you first. And this is when Tara's like, why? You still wanted me to, betray Songland? And she says, I wanted to say goodbye. You're my daughter. And you're just like, what? What? And while you're spinning from that, she says, it was all just a game. I played it the only way I knew how. And this is when she says, basically, I knew I wouldn't be crowned without an army. So I made promises that I knew I couldn't keep. But Wu-Win doesn't understand the choices that I made, but I still would have been good to him. Which is really, really... Really. And she can't even finish the sentence either.
Like he doesn't understand. It is just so condescending and so minimizing and just so gross. Yeah. It's not about that he doesn't understand. It's that you were a giant liar and a betrayer and completely willing to sacrifice a bunch of children. And that is that. Stop it.
Yep. And,
he wasn't enlightened enough to understand. Shut up.
Yeah, he couldn't make the hard choices.
Yep.
And she thinks to herself, Tara looks at her and says, suddenly she looked very old and very young at the same time. And the lady says, that boy must be suffering all alone again. I'll send Kathleen to nurse him. He was helpless when I found him. Which, so she's like it feels genuine, you know?
I think it is. It's just that she's
But
got such a fucked up outlook.
You know, but she used him. Like, she does care for him, but it's the kind of care where you take someone that's in a community that's oppressed or marginalized or whatever, and you sort of pluck them out of it and say, you, I see, you know,
Right.
you are special for whatever reasons. You know, you're not
Mhm.
like, so I won't throw you away with the rest of your people. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you should be grateful for that.
Yeah.
That I see how special you are, that you're not just like the rest of those insert the whatevers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the person who says that usually really means it and thinks that they are coming from a healthy place.
Yeah. They think they're being flattering and generous, and
exactly. And then she tells Tara that there are still so many out there, geniuses waiting to be seen and recognized. My counsel can continue my work, she says. I guess, girl. Tara's like, I don't need your people working for me out in the streets. I'm good. And then the most infuriating thing, I think, of the entire everything of this is the lady saying, my enemies think I lost, but they're wrong. I said I would put an empress on the throne, and I did. Like, you're taking an awful lot of credit for what your daughter accomplished.
An awful lot of credit for something that you absolutely did not intend. That I have no doubt you kind of resent, actually, if anything. And that you actively attempted to prevent from happening because she was definitely going to be executed if she completed the mission that you sent her to do.
Yep.
So, no, you're not getting credit. Sorry.
Yep. I didn't care for that at all. And neither did Tar. You didn't make me who I am. I am not the sequel of your story. You did not give me my name.
That is such a good line.
It is, right? It's very, very good. And then her mom says goodbye, and you think it's over. And then, before her mom, like, disappears, she says a full name, and it's a new name. It's, she says, called Tarisai, I don't know, Idajo?
Which is what they call, I think that's the name as, like, Empress Empress Tarisai.
Okay, so it's more of a title, not a new name. Okay, gotcha. Okay. And that, my friends, is how this wonderful, wonderful book ends.
So do you have any theories on how things are going to go for finding new council members or anything like that?
My screen just froze and very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate.
Welcome
moment.
To my world.
Patrick says, I think it means the just. Idajo, the just.
Oh, okay. There it is. Thank you, Patrick.
That. Yeah, I like that a lot. Do I have thoughts?
Predictions.
Predictions?
Was that, I believe, the word that I was asking.
I don't know if they are really predictions. I don't know. I really don't know. I know what I'm looking forward to seeing. But I don't know how it's going to go. I can't wait to see what it's like, her finding her counsel and how that's going to go.
Yeah.
We didn't really mention it, but there's a recurring thing that she thinks to herself, which is, how is she going to find people to love her? You know? So I can't wait to see what that looks like as she tries to find her own counsel, especially at her big age. You know, counsels, they're children and they grow together. Yep. So what she is about to do is going to be much more similar to what her mother did than what Dio or any of the other emperors have ever done. You know, she's going to be an adult, practically a young adult, out in the world trying to build her council together. I want to see the underworld. I want to see
Fair.
what that looks like. I want to see what's going to happen with Jeep. Like, he's Dio's counsel, so he's not going to have a Ray with. Well, I don't know. How's that going to work?
It's a good question.
Because she was one of Dio's counsel, but now she's Empress. So does that mean Dio needs a new person to make his whole, or does she do both? She has a Ray with them, but then she'll have a Ray with her own people. Will Dio's Ray be with those own? I have questions. I have lots of questions. And I guess none of them know, because there hasn't been ever the two parts ruling together. So this is going to be new for everyone. Oh, this is exciting.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, I want to say hi to new patrons, because I didn't say hi last time. And there's about 10 people, so I am not going to do the air horn between each name, because I just feel like people are going to really grow weary of it. So I hope that you guys can forgive me if I just greet you and thank you for becoming patrons with one air horn at the beginning. Hey! All right. I'm so excited, because I think a lot of people have started signing up recently so that they can get the private Harry Potter feed. We've got Gigi, Hayes Free, Fike, Kate, Cheng Shin, Ariel Steinsaltz. I might have read some of these last week. Tenley Thayer, Kate. That's spelled Kaaytyteeh.
Nice.
So I feel like I pronounced that correctly. OT, Katie, Chris Manley, Anita Christendotter. I hope I'm saying that one correctly. Cohen Hertogs, Equation Panda, Alicia McNamara, Rebecca Langwich, Arturo Velasco, Dognaught, and Bilal Gondal.
Hey!
I'm wondering for Becca's Langsvich. It might be Langsvich. But I'm doing my best. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. Means a lot. And I know that people have been having an issue with the Discord. I just wanted to mention this real quick on here, because I made an announcement to help, but apparently if you're not able to get in the Discord, you can't see the announcement. So that's my bad. But what has happened is Patreon tried to sort of update the way Discord interacts with Patreon in an attempt to be helpful, which I'm sure long term will be an improvement, but in the short term has only just disconnected a lot of people from their Patreon account, so that they are registering as regular filthy casuals and they're not getting access to the patrons only channels. So what you need to do is go into your Patreon and reconnect your Discord to your Patreon account. And then you need to go into the roles channel on the Discord and select the spoiler channels that you want to see and everything over again, and accept the rules. So I hope that anybody having trouble, that will work for them. And if not, you can message me on Discord, or you can email me, and I will do my best to help. To a degree, this is like a Discord Patreon issue, so there's only so much I can do, but I'm trying to just add roles if I can. And it's unclear whether or not that's going to stick from month to month is the main question. So apologies for that. But like I said, hopefully in the long term, this is going to be an actual improvement instead of the massive headache that it seems to be in the short term. You know, that's kind of how I feel about all software updates, I guess.
Every step is agony.
Every fucking step. All right. Anything else you want to say before we wrap?
No, just again, enjoyed it. Can't wait to start the next one. So glad it was picked. Just
me too. I'm really glad I decided to go with this. And thank you very much to Ashley, who commissioned me to read it for Spoil Me, so that I knew to do it as a real show. Because God knows if I would have read it on my own, years down the road. I don't have a lot of free time for like fun reads. I usually just default to goofy mysteries and stuff. So, yeah, thank you, Ashley. Another motivating factor for commissioning me to do Spoil Me stuff is maybe eventually I'll come back and cover it again with a co-host if it's something that really catches me.
I mean, this is like you were going to do the other one too.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I still would if somebody would just come out and say some things, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, another time.
Another time, another place, another life. I would have really enjoyed doing laundry and taxes. All right, guys. Love you very much. Until next time. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.